Hello guys, si Keshan Veloso ulit ito at welcome sa episode 17 ng larutan ng Shadowrun Hong Kong Extended Edition. So, tuloy natin yung game. Kaya lang, katulad ng mga ng previous episodes guys, ano na naman to? Chika minute episode na naman to kasi hindi pa natin natatapos kausapin yung mga kasama natin, lalo na yung bago si Gaichu, di pa natin nakausap. So, continue. The entire rockets noiselessly towed hay along the edge of Kowloon Bay. The black water glitters in the night with the light of 1,000 reflected storefronts. Gaichu stares sightlessly out the window, one hand pressed to the glass. The plot by the elders is exposed, and Porter Lam is in your debt. You have a new ally, and the respect of the Wampoans. Sometimes everything goes right on a job. You count yourself lucky. This was one of those times. Kakausapin pa natin si Gobbet, tapos yung dalawa sa baba. Tapos magre-report tayo kay Kindly Cheng. Ang tanong matatapos kaya natin yung mga to within this time. Kasi nga, may timer tayo So, tingnan natin. Di pa nakakatulong yung bagal ng loading time. Ayan. Di pa natin nakukuha yung payment So, tapos tayo dito kay Isabel. Si Gobbet naman nakakausapin natin for now. Teka. Okay. Gobbet looks up from a dented tin of oysters at the sound of your approach. Her rats, madness and folly, scurry from her hips up to her shoulders. Two sets of beady red eyes fix themselves on you. Hey, Seattle oyster! She appears a gray lump. She spears a gray lump of seafood with a fingernail, extends it to you. It smells like low tide at a municipal pier. Eat the oyster. Sure, why not? Refuse. No thanks. Refuse. Are you trying to kill me? Okay, ata. You pop the rubbery wad of flesh into your mouth and chew. An explosion of lukewarm brine is your reward. Ay yung doon sa pinagtataguan ni Gaichu, hindi natin tinikman yung karne kasi nga yung na-discover natin na karne pala ng tao yun Good, right? Half-repressed memories of dumpster driving in the Barrens dance a merry jig in your brain as the mangled oyster slides down your throat. Yeah, delicious. I've eaten worse. Let us file, Gobbet. Yeah, delicious. Ano lang muna. Kailangan I wouldn't go that far. But it's seafood, and it isn't made of soy. That makes it good in my book. She tilts back the tin, drains the remaining juice, and then flicks it into the overflowing bin at her side. So what do you need? How do you like life here on the Bolt Hole? You know the Bolt Hole is a pretty mediocre name for a ship. Ever consider changing it? You said that you'd teach me how to be a better Shadowrunner. I'm here to collect. Any thoughts about that last run? Kasi kasama natin siya dun I don't get the Wampoans. I really don't. Isabel is about as close as I usually get to their particular flavor of crazy. You'd think with all the technology and backup, they'd have been smart enough not to stiff a red samurai on payment, much less a ghoul. I don't know, for smart people, they seem pretty damn dumb to me. Ano lang, typical Chekwa. Masyadong sa pera. I think we pulled off a damn miracle back there. Not only did we get a creepy-ass close combat expert on our side, we exposed the elders and got ourselves a nice bonus for being smart. Not a lot of jobs got that right. I'm feeling better and better about having you in charge, Seattle. So what else did you want to chat about? Um, Ato muna. How do you like life here on the Bolt Hole? It's fine. Shaping up. Having new roomies is always nice. She smiles. How are you enjoying your cabin? Comfy enough for you? Isn't half bad. Better than some of the places I squatted in back in the Barrens. I get used to it. I'd almost rather sleep outside. Ano ba yan? Ah, Ito, sige. Ah, Kailangan natin sabihin yung kwento ng buhay natin sa kanya eh. I've heard stories about the Redmond Barrens. Sounds like a real winner of a place. Kowloon isn't any better, of course, but at least our little slice of home is safe. That's true. It's handy having a mob boss on our side. I'll make the bolt hole over. I'll take the bolt hole over the Barrens any day. This boat should have been scrapped years ago. I'd feel a hell of a lot better at a hotel. Uh, ito na lang. Kasi nga medyo pangit din yung Barrens talaga eh. That's the spirit. A lazy smile spreads across her face as her fingertips brush Madness's back. The rat squeals and darts back into the safe haven of Gobbet's hair. You know, the bolt hole is a pretty mediocre name for a ship. Sige. Ito. Sabihin na natin yan. Yeah, sure. Considered it a bunch of times. I never really cared enough to actually do it though. She shrugs. You wanna call her something else? I'm open to it. I want a strong name. How about the Defiance? The Revenge feels appropriate. Let's go with something classical. The Dowager Empress has a nice ring to it. Let's call her the Kraken. The Big Texas. That's what we're calling her. Tell me you don't love it. On second thought, let's stick with the bolt hole. Defiance. Actually, gusto ko to eh. Yung Revenge di masyado. Dowager Empress. Sige, ito na lang. Yung Kraken na lang. Let's call her the Kraken. Unleash the Kraken. Yeah, Captain. The Kraken it is. She nods enthusiastically. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I think that the others will be happy with it. I'm having second thoughts about that new name for the boat. You said that, ato na. You said that you'd teach me how to be a better Shadowrunner. I'm here to collect. Okay. Still remember that, do you? Huh? I just sort of assumed that you'd laugh that off. No dice. Why isn't mentor? You offered. Now pay up. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have. In that case, forget it. No dice. Why isn't mentor? You offered. You pay up. Now pay up. She straightens. Okay. How about this? I'll tell you a story about a run gone bad. You tell me what you'd have done in the runner's place, and then we'll compare notes on your answer. How does that sound? You tell me you're the teacher here. Remember? Works for me, I guess. Okay. She sweeps a tangled rope of hair out of her eyes and back over one pointed ear. After a moment of silence, silent contemplation, she bites her lip and nods. Okay, so this is a story from early in my career. I was a part of a team here in Hong Kong, but I did some occasional moonlighting for another group based out of Macau. I was a busy kid. Go on, early in your career? So you were, what, like 12 years old? Who was on this other team? Anyone I might know? Okay, so wag na lang muna. Go on. The job was a hit on this tower, sort of a tried multiplex slash apartment complex. I'm sure that they've got them in Seattle too. Know the kind? 7 huge screens. You know the kind? 7 huge screens. Monster concession stand. Coffin apartments on top like barnacles on a whale. I used to go to one back in Seattle. Best way to watch urban brawl. Never been to one, but I've heard of them. I live in one for a while. Every time they showed an action movie, the walls would shake. Sige, ito na lang. She nods. Yeah, that'll happen. Our client wanted us to break into one of the apartments. The story was that an ex of hers A guy named Bugs lived there. She'd been co- she'd been cooped up with him until about a week prior. Then things went sour in a big way. She wanted us to get back some things that Bugs kept when he kicked her out. Scared the shit out of him. Bloody him up a bit. Make it look like a robbery. You know the drill. Sounds more like a job for thrill gangers than fully fledged Shadowrunners. I pulled a few jobs like that myself back when I lived in the Barrens. It was a standard smash and grab then. So ito na lang. It was a pretty bush league gig, but the guy was decent enough. Not the sort of thing you turn down. So anyway, Civilians, that was our group leader, had a plan. We knew that we had to go in quiet because the Metroplex had a panic system wired directly to the Hong Kong police force. If we'd gone in shooting, we'd have been drowning in cops within 10 minutes. Siv thought that we could maybe take advantage of the apartment's terrible soundproofing and kick, kick in Bug's door when the movie got loud. We'd camp out near his doorway, wait for the ceiling to start shaking plaster, then smash our way in with his neighbors none the wiser. Etiquette academic. This sounds kind of familiar. Doesn't sound like a bad plan. There's no way that would work. Actually, pwede. Pwede. Doesn't like a bad plan. Well, it had the virtue of being simple. I give it that. But still, that didn't stop things from going the way that they did. So we waited in the hall, just like civilians planned. We had a guy on the elevator, another at the stairs. I was waiting by the floor's communal kitchen. Sib took out a position by the door. She had these cyber legs that she dumped a ton of Nuyen into. Hydraulic jacks, strength enhancements. The works. Girl could probably leg press a dump truck. Okay, ah. She pauses for a moment. Come to think of it, most of her plans involve kicking things. There's something a little sad about that. Focus, Gobbet. Hey, if that was her thing, I wouldn't question it. And this woman was the best suited to lead this particular group of runners? Sige to. Yeah, you're very supportive. Me, I'd have preferred to work for someone who thought with her head instead of her robot legs. Eh, style niya yun eh. Anyway, we heard a boom from downstairs. Felt the walls shake with the reverb. Siv wheeled back and gave the door a massive kick, just as she planned. From where I was standing, I couldn't really see what happened next. I could hear a massive crack as her boot slammed into Duraplast. The door flew off its hinges, exploded off, might be a more accurate phrase. A second later, we heard an ungodly crash. There was a moment of silence. Then Steve let out this little gasp. The apartment was in shambles. It looked like a hurricane had hit it. Everything was trashed. Everything but the door, which was miraculously still in one piece. Remember that this was a coffin apartment. It wasn't much wider than the door was to begin with. And Bugs, well, that was what was left of him was under the door too. Ala. Nye, may nauna, edi ko ganun, may nauna na pala. That didn't turn out well. Oh no. Well, you got the rough him up part right. Well, that didn't turn out well. Okay, so yeah, it wasn't good. Bugs was dead, and the stuff that we'd been sent there to recover had been smashed to bits. And then the building alarm went off. So, sabihin may pumatay ka agad bago pa man sila dumating. So that's the situation. Our payday is smashed. My temporary teammates are all standing around with stupid looks on their faces. The cops are coming. I'm standing by the kitchen. She plants her hands on her hips, smiling. What would you have done in my place? The group was in trouble. I would have rallied with them, tried to help them fight their way past the cops and out. Siblings created this situation. You weren't even a part of her team. You were subcontracted. I sub you were subcontracting. I'd have cut I'd have cut and run. Damage control. I'd have looked for I'd have looked for blackmail material to protect myself from a soon to be angry client. I'd have tried to improvise. Was there anything in the kitchen you could use to resolve the situation? Oh, yun nga. Ah, kasi nga, sa mga prior runs natin sa unang dalawang game, ganyan din eh. Improvisation lang talaga ang solution eh. Good thinking. As it happens, there was, and I knew just what to do with it. The thought popped into my head, and I just went with it. She taps her temple with a smile. That's a lesson to remember, Seattle. The first answer that you come up with is almost always the best one you're gonna have. So just roll with it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't hesitate. Just act. You live longer that way. Got it. Now, when I think crowded theater, I think place I think place where you can't shout fire because it'll cause a panic. And then I thought cops don't charge into burning buildings. They help people get out of them. And as it had happened, I had the means to create real genuine fire sitting right across from me. A pair of industrial ovens. You set the building on fire? Yeah, sure. Makes sense to me, I guess. Gobbet, I don't think that I can imagine an idea much worse than that. Uh, right. I was clearly the best. It was clearly the best available option. I opened the gas vents wide, set the range on a timer, and motored back into the hallway. The others had started arguing amongst themselves. I told them to snap out of it and follow me down into the lobby. We have to clear the hallway before an errant, errant spark takes the whole floor out, I said. Sounded pretty reasonable to me. Tama. Unfortunately, the rest of the group wouldn't listen. Even the rest of the team were too busy arguing about the relative merits of her let's kick things really hard and see what happens tactical system to want anything to do with me. I shouted back to them that the kitchen was going to explode and continued down the hallway. Just like I'd planned, I got out of that run in one piece. So did every single one of the people in that multiplex. Fire plan worked My fire plan worked beautifully. If the rest of the team had listened to me, they might have gotten out of the building too. Kind of a bummer that they didn't. But at least the run turned out well for me. How? Your team burned to death? All's well that ends well, I guess. Ano lang. That's right. You take what you're given and make the best of it. And that's what I did. I couldn't collect any pay, of course. The run had been a disaster, but after the explosion, I got to ride in the front of the fire truck, and they gave me cookies and a blanket. I wound up dating one of those firemen a few weeks later, so it all worked out in the end. Okay. Ganda na improvisation mo, ah. Gobbet claps her hands together and rubs them, a satisfied look on her face. So, Seattle, the laughter disappears from her voice, and her expression goes serious. It's like somebody flipped a switch suddenly. The look in her eyes is shrewd, calculating. Tell me, what was the moral of this story? What lesson was I trying to convey? Don't go on shadowruns with idiots. Go with your gut, I guess. Fire solves all problems. I'm sorry, did that story have a point? Ato. Go with your gut, I guess. She nods sagely. That's right, trust your impulses. And don't be afraid to wing it. Almost any action is better than no action at all. Once you've committed to doing something, you've got to follow it through. Though, no arguing or ringing, just do it. If you get caught up in your own head, agonizing over past mistakes, well, don't be surprised if you wind up dead. A kitchen fire can take you down as easily as a cop's bullet if you stand around and let it. I'm having second thoughts about that. Okay. Ito, wag na option na ito. Are you certain that civilians and the rest of the Macau team are dead? She shrugs. They weren't with me when I got evacuated with the rest of the moviegoers. I never saw them leave the building, and I haven't heard from them since. I guess it's possible that somebody made it, but I don't really run in those circles anymore. Odds are good that if anyone from the Macau team did survive, they'll have died off by now, from sheer incompetence. Shadow running is an unforgiving business. You don't get to make too many mistakes. Totoo yun. Did any of the stuff in that story actually happen? Or did you just make it up for my benefit? Ah, wag na yan. Ayoko yan. Ayoko yung option na yan. So, that's all I needed. Thanks, Gobbet. No problem. Sweet dreams. Pangit yung isang option eh. Okay, yun naman dalawa sa baba. Okay. Ito. Teka, save muna natin. Progress din yan kahit paano. Okay. Ito naman dalawa sa baba. Si Raptor. Tapos nandito sa kabila si ano. Teka, si Raptor muna. Although hindi natin siya kasama din sa run. Welcome back, my friend. What can I do for you? Are you Russian? I thought I got a hint of an accent there. Look about your side. Look about your side work. You're a Shadowrunner, aren't you? He gives you a shallow nod. I dislike the term, but yes, I run the shadows. What gave me away? Your drone. People on the up and up don't build murder bots for fun. Nothing in particular, I just get that feeling. Design consultants live in apartments in Victoria Harbor. You're living in a rusted out boat in Hayoy. There's got to be a reason for that. Sige to. He shrugs. You're correct, of course. The residents of shadow communities are usually either too poor to live elsewhere or engage in behaviors too illicit to risk it. I will admit to being in the latter camp. Designing robotics is my passion, but it doesn't always pay the bills. He runs a hand over Koshei's armored chassis, caressing the sculpted metal with his fingertips. My status as a foreigner has proven something of an impediment in this regard. And so sorry as I may be to say it, the lion's share of my income flows from Koshei's aptitude for butchery. Such is life, I suppose. We do what we must to do what we love. Seems like everybody on this boat runs the shadows. Why not pool our resources and work together? So ito tama. Para maging ano na rin natin siya, maging part ng crew. He purses his lips considering. A compelling offer. I'm doing quite well on my own. But I must admit that there are certain jobs to which I am unsuited. Magic eludes me, and I'm not a decker. My strength comes from material objects in the real world. Solid things. With mass and heft. Things that I can build and operate. Sadly, a great many clients are only interested in teams that display a mastery over the intangible. This group of yours, do you have people who can cover these bases? If so, then perhaps we can help each other out. How about you, Randesh? How about you? How can you not already know that? You live right beneath our feet. Yes, we have a shaman and a decker, both competent at their jobs. Yep, we've also got a former security expert. I guess that's the best way to describe Duncan. In that case, I will accept your offer on a provisional basis. We'll do a few runs together and see how we get on. If your association bears fruit, it will continue. If not, I will bid you my farewell and go back to working alone. How that does sound? Sige, welcome aboard. Okay. Very good. Excellent. When you receive a job, you know where to find me. My skills and resources are at your disposal. So yan. For now. Pero depende pa rin yan pagka hindi siya natuwa sa atin, baka umalis siya. And with that, I'm afraid that I must bid you good day. I still have work to do down here. This leg assembly won't clean itself. I'll be in touch. Looking forward to working with you. And I with you. Okay, so pwede na pala tayo mag-upgrade ng unit natin. Teka. Okay, si Gobbet. So level wala ka. Siya may option. Ano yung una? Predator, increase accuracy. Mangler, increase attribute move speed. Accuracy mas mahalaga yan. Ikaw. Melee ka, no? Active defenses. Rip. Rip. Okay. Confirm all. At least updated na sila. Okay. Akala ko may nakuha tayong bago. So anyway, kausapin naman natin si Teka. Nandito si Gaichu sa baba eh. So, siya naman. Siya yung last. Teka lang. Save natin. Get some rest. Nakuha na natin yan. Sabi ko na lang to tapos the storage room that functions as Gaichu's cabin is a cramped, overheated mess. Piles of old ship parts share space with tarnished cookware, flats of instant noodles, a collection of cast-off clothes, and reams of diagnostic manuals for obsolete computer hardware. To top it all off, there is barely any light whatsoever. All of the bulbs in this room are missing. Hindi naman niya kailangan kasi nga blind siya eh. Gaichu is busily moving boxes around, apparently in an effort to carve out some personal space amid the junk that he shares his cabin with. As you enter, he cocks his head and turns around. Welcome to my sanctuary, Tank. I apologize for the lack of light, but as I did not need it, Gobbet took the bulbs for use elsewhere. Gaichu puts down the box that he's in the process of moving, and politely bows to his head towards you. How can I be of assistance? I just wanted to see how you were settling in. Don't you worry about bumping into things. It's cramped in here. I just wanted to see how you were settling in. Gaichu rolls his shoulders in a different shrug. I live. I am among those who can make use of my services, and who are not attempting to claim the bounty on my head. Is that not enough for now? Any thoughts about that last run? Kasama natin siya in a way eh. Have you been having weird dreams recently? I need to talk about your condition, being a ghoul. Sa ito mo na. Gaichu shrugs, blinking a few times in surprise. What do you expect me to say? You have allowed me to live, invited me into your home, or both, if you prefer, and have given me a means to earn an income and use my particular set of talents. I am pleased with this. While I understand you desire to keep the elders alive to preserve whatever goodwill exists between you and the Wampoans, I worry that such softness sends the wrong message to those in the underworld. There is a time for truth, but there is also a time for sending a message. Okay, may point ka dun. Is there anything else I can do for you? Ito. Kahit medyo medyo baka may mabad trip siya eh. I need to talk about your condition, being a Gugu. Gaichu inclines his head. As you wish. You are my benefactor, and as such, I yield to you. Ask then. I will do my best to answer. How do I know that the team is safe from you? Aside from being blind, how has it affected you? Aside from my heightened senses of smell and hearing, I am stronger, tougher, and more resilient than any mundane human. I can achieve feats of physicality that are normally restricted to adepts and those with extensive enhancements. So, medyo medyo tanky rin siya. Gaichu lifts one hand, fingers crooked to show off his elongated nails, claws really. These as sharp as any small knife. I prefer my sword, but in a grapple, they come in extremely handy. He draws one nail over the surface of his shoulder blades. A hair-fine spiral of armor peels off in the nail's wake. Do you still need to sleep? Can you turn into mist or anything? Okay na tanong yan. Do you still need to sleep? Gaichu chuckles, his laughter rasping out over his lips. Unfortunately, I do. I am not an undead creature of legend. If I manage to unlock the secret of rest without sleep, I will be certain to inform you. Okay. So hindi naman siya vampire. How do I know that the team is safe from you? I thought ghouls were all animalistic predators. It seems like your condition has stabilized. For now, it has. I will not suddenly become ravenous beast lurking in the hold of your ship. At least no more so than I already am. Gaichu bares his teeth in a wry grin, dipping his head a little. Have you been having weird dreams recently? Why did you pick the name Gaichu anyway? Your arm was heavier than what most Shadowrunners wear, and more distinctive too. Why did you pick the name Gaichu? It was given to me. This is what the Japanese call ghouls, for the most part. I am vermin, a thing shunned by polite society, to be hunted and slain for a bounty. My old life is gone. It seemed as apt a name for the streets as any other that I could choose. Okay. Usually Shadowrunners pick something more impressive. Don't you worry that people will think it's a little silly? I like that attitude. It turns the tables of power. Tama. Gaichu dips his head in agreement. One does not defeat the enemy solely by strength. Strength of arms. One must turn one's own weaknesses into strengths. It is an old and valuable lesson too often forgotten. Okay. Ito naman na. Your armor is heavier than what most Shadowrunners wear, and more distinctive too. Gaichu nods, growling his assent. That is correct. It is the armor worn by the elite soldiers of the Renraku Corporation military, the Red Samurai. What are the Red Samurai? Etiquette, corporate. Those are Renkaku Special Forces, aren't they? Correct. The most elite soldiers that the corporation can muster, trained to the highest and most exacting level possible. They are assigned only the most dangerous, difficult, and important missions, things other units would balk at even discussing. How'd you manage to steal a suit of their armor? That armor's a rare thing for a Shadowrunner to have. Aren't they going to come looking for your armor? Medyo ayoko tong unang dalawa. Ito na. Baka dati siyang elite soldier. That is true. It is considerably less rare for a red samurai to have a suit of it. However, even if he goes rogue, you are a red samurai? You don't strike me as a corporate soldier. Ito na lang. You are a red samurai? Indeed, for the entirety of my adult life, I was a member of the Renraku military, specifically the Red Samurai. That changed relatively recently. I feel the reasons are abundantly clear. Oo nga, kasi naging undead ka eh. Hence, I still possess my armor, my sword, my training. They have saved me well in both my previous life and in this one. Have you been having weird dreams recently? How did you end up running the shadows? How did you end up in Hong Kong? Did you grow up in a corporation? Ito na muna. How did you end up running the shadows? Gaichu rasps out a coughing laugh that reverberates through the cramped room. What other employment is appropriate for a cannibal whose only previous experience is in military operations? There are not many things I know how to do. This is one of them. Hindi naman siguro. That doesn't explain why you fled your old unit. You weren't always a ghoul though. But why not ask Renraku for medical help? Medyo reasonable to. In theory, Red Samurai who are wounded are given the best in medical treatment and cybernetics if these are insufficient to return them to active duty. They're given a pension and retired. In practice, this is never the case. Ay, ganun? In practice, hindi. Okay Red Samurai teams do everything together. Eat, sleep, train, play. We learn to think for each other. Move as a single entity. When part of the team is broken, it affects everyone. Gaichu runs his claws over his scalp, sighing. The other members of the unit would be distracted, thinking about a wounded comrade, and would resent a new member for usurping the old member's place. Okay. So the wounded invariably take the same course of action for the good of the team. Ritual suicide, seppuku. Ano ba yun? Masyado namang stereotypical. Ano ba yan? That's completely insane. An interesting way to ensure unit cohesion. I can understand the logic behind that. Ito na lang. That's completely insane na lang. Gaichu chuckles soft, shaking his head. I believe that it is effective in most cases, but I also believe I am worth more alive than dead. Kaya nga kinahal kita sa party ko eh. In my case, I became infected while on a sabotage mission against Shiawase in Osaka. The unit was exfiltrated on foot from Nariwa Ward through the Irinchiku slums. We had not anticipated a ghoul nest on our route. My surprise got the better of me, and I was beaten. Nakatago sa armor mo yung kagat, ganun? Understand that since the passage of the Yamato Act, Japan is a pure country. Metahumans are deported, and to be infected with HMHVV is to be less than an animal. You will be killed on sight. Since this was in effect, the same as being permanently crippled in the eyes of the team, It was expected that I would kill myself. Why didn't you? That sounds pretty fascist. Tama ito. Gaichu bares his teeth in a vicious grin. When I was younger, I would have argued that you simply did not understand what it means to be Japanese. Hindi na ganyan mag-isip ang mga Hapon ngayon. I think now, however, that you are correct. The Yamato Act is a convenient way to encourage nationalistic favor while avoiding the racial problems of other nations by simply removing non-humans. Because I was still capable of fighting, I questioned the necessity of suicide. Why should I die if I was still as effective as before? Was I not worth having simply because my diet changed? One does not discard a quality tool simply because the surface is stained. Tama. I made the decision to leave while the unit was allowing me time to prepare for my expected suicide. I took nothing but my weapons, armor, and small number of personal mementos. I knew that the unit would hunt me down and kill me. Ghouls are considered vermin in Japan. To have a red samurai become one and refuse to die, unconscionable. How long did it take them to find you? It sounds like the red samurai take honor very seriously. Oh, yeah, obviously. They do, to an anachronistic degree. Political and ideological indoctrination is as much a part of the training as physical fitness and weapons practice. In order to use this, Gaichu wraps several knuckles on the hilt of his sword. They make certain you will only turn it on enemies of the company and the nation. They found me 2 weeks after I ran. I was careless as I fled south, and they caught up with me in Fukuoka, but I escaped barely. It was at that point I decided that I should leave Japan. I knew they would not stop hunting me, but I could make it more difficult for them. Okay, how did you end up in Hong Kong? Nilangoy mo yung distance? I was searching for a cure. I needed a place where I could disappear into the shadows, find work, and evade capture. If a cure did not materialize, the Yamato Act meant that I was even more dangerous to be in Japan than anywhere else. Gaichu smells thinly, leaning back on his heels. I went to China, primarily because I still hoped to be able to return home. It felt less final if I fled to somewhere nearby. I went first to Shanghai, but Renraku's presence there is significantly more robust than in Hong Kong. I learned that my previous unit had not stopped hunting me after I left Japan, so I decided to move further afield. Gaichu unfurls his hands, claws pointing towards the ceiling. Hence Hong Kong. Where else can anyone arrive and disappear without the city calling one wit? Seattle comes to mind. Lagos maybe? Berlin seems a good spot. Yung Cruise Bazaar. Perhaps 5 years ago. But the recent upheavals and the newly iron-listed Cedar Crop influence filled me with trepidation. The Flux State is wala na yung Flux State. Long live the corporate Berlin of the future. Ay, ganun? Yun ang nangyari after nung events nung sitwasyon kay Firewing. Since arriving here, I've drifted between neighborhoods selling my services to those who are unafraid of my appearance and condition. Gaichu frowns deeply. It has not been as profitable as I'd hoped. Next question. Did you grow up in a corporation? Yes, in Keihanshin, the Kyoto-Osaka-Kobe sprawl. It is less populated than Neo-Tokyo, but not by much. I grew up in East Kobe, where my father was posted in a naubos din yung time natin dito pa lang. Oh, pero okay lang, sige, teka. Tapusin na lang natin to. Posted in an Ranraku complex, Gaichu roots around in a nearby box, running his fingertips over several chips before deciding on one. He slots it into his PDA and a tried photo flickers to life in the space between you. Ay, yung tatay niya siguro. Tapusin lang natin to, guys. Teka. A young man, obviously Gaichu, leans against a railing which overlooks a sprawling harbor complex of, skyscrapers and cranes. His school uniform is ripped, and the beginnings of a black eye are forming. Abrasions cover his knuckles, and blood dots his pants. Despite this, he's grinning like he's just won the lottery. Vibrant, fierce. You look a little beat up. That's not what I expected to see. You look like you haven't changed much. Sige, to. How do you mean? I am unable to see which picture is being displayed. You look like you got in a fight. You're looking down at a city. Tama. Sabihin natin yung totoo. That must be on Mount Maya. If I remember right, I gave better than I got in that fight. 3 against 1, but they were out of shape and cocky. I used to cause a lot of trouble when I was in school. My father was constantly raging that I had no sense of responsibility and that I needed to take life more seriously. A cackle erupts from Gaichu. Suddenly mirth spreads across his face. The final straw was when he bailed me out of jail. I've been in jail a few times. What did you do? That would have tried Raymond's patience. That would have tried Raymond's patience. I've been in jail a few times. What did you do? My friends and I stole a delivery van. It had a shipment of Shiawase's SimSense decks. Brand new, very expensive. We were going to fence them and use the money to take a trip to Okinawa. Gaichu pauses, cocking his head. Are you familiar with what it's like to grow up in a corporate family? Etiquette corporate. I know a thing or two about it, yeah. Not a clue, okay. Then you understand how it is. Children are encouraged to participate in acts of vandalism against rival corporations. Unfortunately, we were caught by Shiawase security, not in Raku. You think your father approved, even secretly? What did your father do next, Otata? I doubt it, very much. For him, the activity was not the issue. It was that I was caught and embarrassed both the company and him. He is very much a man who believes that there is a proper way to do things, and I had once again cut corners. What did your father do next? Natapusin lang natin. Medyo mahaba-haba, guys, pero at least nakuha natin yung time. Gaichu clicks his tongue a few times. He seems reluctant to continue. That is a story for another time, unfortunately. I still have a lot of arranging to do, and I doubt anyone else will be willing to be alone with me in a darkened room. Come back later. We can discuss it further. Okay, if that's what you want. Come on. Can't you tell me anything more? Respeto natin yung ano niya. Gaichu bows politely. It is, and thank you again for your hospitality. Okay, so tapos na tayo dito. Ano yan? Box of mementos. Tignan natin kung ano yung mga mementos niya. Gaichu's box of personal effects is overflowing with a collection of souvenirs, mementos, and knickknacks. There is no rhyme or reason to the collection of items. They appear to have been thrown in haphazardly. Laying atop the box are a collection of antique Japanese coins inside an overturned wooden mask and a black lacquered box with gold inlay. Gaichu cocks his head, sniffing the air in your direction. I see you have found my box of personal effects. Please feel free to examine whatever you like within it. Just take care to put them back when you are done. I do not own much, but the things I keep are very precious to me. They are all that reminds me of my former life. Okay, so tapusin ko lang to para lang ako na. Examine the wooden mask. The wooden mask is extremely light. been painted a pale white, and the surface is almost as smooth as porcelain. Although it lacks the sheen of lacquer, the face's traits are delicate and almost feminine, and feature filled eyebrows, bright red lips, and delicately carved teeth. The teeth have been stained a deep black, barely visible past the slightest parted lips. The expression, while kindly, is ambiguous and uncanny. Viewed from above, the expression is one of calm contentment. Shifting the mask to view it at an upward angle causes the expression to seem melancholy, almost pain. What's this wooden mask, Gaichu? Okay, hahaba pa tuloy dahil dito. Okay lang. It is a mask from the historical no play, Ikuta Atsumori. The face is that of a young samurai. Taira no Atsumori. Gaichu faces your direction, gesturing towards the mask. I had a collection of a dozen or so no masks when I was younger. That is the last remaining one, and my personal favorite. What's the difference between a normal play and no? What's the play about? Why is it your favorite? Okay, ito. What's the play about? Ito na lang muna. A young man travels with the priest who raised him to Ikuta Shrine, commune with the spirit of his father, Taira no Atsumori. The young man's father died at the Battle of Ichino Tani when the son was only a baby, and he wishes to know how his father was. The pair stayed the night in a small hut. In the night, the hermit in the hut explains that he is the ghost of Atsumori. Atsumori has been granted a brief reprieve from his time in the afterlife to meet his son. During the night, they speak of the battle in which Atsumori was killed, the history of the Taira family, and their philosophy. Atsumori faded into darkness as he finishes the tale of the Taira's downfall, just as the family itself faded into obscurity. So think we, yet oh, that we might change this fragile dream of joy into the lasting love of walking life, says Atsumori before fading. It is a tale of sorrow, love, and the burden of war upon the dead and living alike. The price one pays for war is not always in one's own blood alone, but in the shattering of one's own family. Malalim, ah. Okay. Why is it your favorite? Gaichu smiles, expression distant. A measure of civic pride, I suppose, and I like the story. Taira no Atsumori died at the Battle of Ichi-no-Tani, just outside Kobe. The play takes place primarily at Ikuta Shrine, which is located in downtown Kobe. In all cities in Japan, especially in Keihanshin, I have always felt there is a sense of history wherever one looks. The skyline may have skyscrapers and delivery thrones, but the foundations are laid on the bones of the dead. Gaichu shrugs, folding his arms across his chest. I think it is important to remember their sacrifices and joys, sorrows and glories. Lalim. Masyadong deep. Gaichu laughs suddenly, shaking his head. This is why sometimes I worry that I am a sentimentalist at heart. Hindi na kailangan yan. Alam ko naman difference eh. What naman? Okay. Examine the lacquered box. The box is a deep, glossy black cube. The edges and corners are rounded rather than sharp, and the gold flake inlay across the surface glitters even in the dim lighting of the room. Sliding the top off, the interior contents are revealed. A calligraphy set, complete with inkstone and block, brushes and paper. Gaichu wrinkles his nose, his expression one of distaste. Ah, that thing. It's a beautiful set, but it is a shame that I am unable to make use of it. Surely you used to be able to. Gaichu snorts derisively, stifling laughter. No, my handwriting has always been absolutely terrible. fanciful stories you may have heard of being able to tell a swordsman's ability by his handwriting, I assure you that they are wrong. Pangit yung handwriting niya kung ganon. The set was a gift from a professor of Japanese literature. He appreciated my interest in the classics, the tale of the Heike, the tale of Genji, the collection of 10,000 leaves, etc. I think he wished to encourage me to cultivate non-martial interests. Gaichu smiles crookedly and shrugs. I appreciated the gesture, but my attempts at fine calligraphy mostly resembled exciting chickens prancing over paper, their feet soaked in ink. Okay, leave the box alone. Okay, so tapos na tayo dito. So, akit na muna tayo doon sa office. Tapos doon natin save. Okay. Next episode na natin kolektahin yung reward natin doon sa run. So, save natin. Okay. Andali lang guys. Konti-konti na lang. Main menu. Okay guys, Gerson Velosa signing off. Next episode na lang ulit.